Last time we built the Foundry furnace, but a furnace without a burner is really just a fancy, heavy, and expensive bucket. Today, we're going to change that. Welcome back to part 2 of my series where I'm going from zero experience in metal casting to hopefully recreating history and bringing it back to life one cast at a time. This burner is the heart of the entire Foundry setup. If it doesn't work, nothing else in this series matters. No molten aluminum, no casting, no recreating history. Today, we're building the propane burner that powers the entire Foundry. And somewhere along the way in this journey, I somehow managed to build 2 different burner designs when I only needed 1. Stick around until the end and let's find out if we can fire this thing up for the very first time and if it works. Let's get building.
Some might classify this project as trash right at the beginning. Why? Well, my projects often start in my scrap pile of metal, and this project is no different. The origin of parts don't necessarily define what they can be used for, and this is a perfect example of that. This is the exact size I needed and will work well for threading and tapping and connecting to my safety valve and the various other components I have yet to make. If it hasn't become apparent already, this is not the traditional burner that you see everybody build on YouTube, or at least 90% of the ones that I've seen when doing my research before jumping to this project. Just about everybody starts off at the hardware store buying 10 billion fittings, eventually creates this contraption that works as a burner. It looks like a cross between a propane burner and modern art, which is great, especially if you don't have all the tools. But it does introduce a few series of problems, namely you have to find this long shopping list, which I'm not a big fan of going shopping, and 2, the other issue is every joint is a possible failure point. More joints can then equal more leaks. With those few thoughts in mind, I jumped headfirst into building this project and ended up making 2 different burner designs. Yes, 2 different burner designs. And I only needed 1 burner. I actually made a mistake, an oversight, when threading this joint right here. We'll get into that in a little bit and I'll explain what I did exactly and why I had to pivot, but that's for a little bit later. Without this oversight, this design would have worked great, and it's 75 to maybe even 90% of the way identical to the second design. While I've been talking through this thought process with you, I've made some progress, so let me get you caught up with where we're at. So far, I've created the steel tube that's threaded on both ends, and my gas-rated 1/8" valve threads well into the one end, but on this end, I need to make an adapter to connect to this MIG tip, which will act like my propane orifice. So that means I need to turn some steel, remove some metal, and tap and thread this steel so that I can jump from this small thread to the larger 1/8". Each little baby step in this project, while it seems like there's a lot of little steps while I'm in the midst of this type of project, I remind myself of the end goal. And in this case, fire up the Foundry furnace, melt some metal, and cast some history. In other words, make some metal casts of different projects and things that relate to World War II, World War II reenacting, and the French resistance. I'm getting closer and closer to that goal. In the meantime, though, I will be utilizing this tool that often gets to sit and take a nap in my workshop. It's time to finally put it to work, and that's my manual lathe. While this tool can be a little intimidating, it is awesome to have, and it opens up a lot of doors to produce things like this burner. Instead of having 10 billion joints, I'm hopefully going to have 2 to maybe 4 max joints that are possible leak points because I can use a tool like this. While a manual lathe is a door opener for your hobbyist, there are various restrictions that I run into on projects like this. For example, this machine has limited rigidity. I think that's partially due to the tool holder. It's a quick change tool post. Originally it had a more rigid setup, but it took forever to change out the tools. So I purchased this quick change tool post, which is aluminum. And another part in the video, you can actually see where it binds and goes underneath the piece that I'm turning. As a result, I can only take shallow depths of cut and a relatively low feed rate. But again, feed rate, can I even apply it? I don't know if that's the proper term when applied it to a manual lathe like this. Okay, lurking machinists, I know you're out there. Let me know in the comments. If I could somehow find a steel quick change tool post for this little lathe, would that make a night and day difference? What's your thoughts? And this is a moment where ideal doesn't match my setup. Ideally, the thread die should somehow be mounted in the lathe and my workpiece as well. While I wouldn't power it on to use the die, I could hand thread it and make sure everything lines up perfectly perpendicular to end up with the best result possible. I haven't found a way to mount the die efficiently and economically to my lathe. As I am completing this parting operation, my hopes are high as I'm like, hey, I just need to do one more threading operation and then this should all connect together to create the main core portion of the burner. Man, did I have a disappointment coming. Remember earlier when I mentioned that I made an oversight when threading the pipe? Well, this is that moment I noticed it. The pipe has a seam on one side. As I was tapping the thread, I didn't take that into consideration. So the thread is crooked. I didn't realize that until right now when I noticed that the MIG tip didn't align straight with the main body. Why is that a problem? Well, with the burner, it should shoot the propane right down the center of the burner, not off at an angle. Might function, just not as well as it should. In theory, this part should have worked perfect, and I would have been done at this point, or very close to being done. Due to that error, it's not. But there are a few things I can do to fix it. One, I could shorten the burner, which I did not want to do. Or two, I find another option to work around the pipe thread. This brings me to my second design option. So it's time to adapt by making a different adapter. Instead of the previous version, this one will go on the outside and be a friction fit and then a weld. It's about time I learn this process and come up with a way to make a pressure-rated weld. This new chunk of steel, as you might have guessed it, came straight from my scrap pile. It's a little wider diameter than the previous one, and the diameter provides plenty of real estate to bore the 1/2-inch diameter hole that I will need to be able to fit that pipe that makes up the majority of the burner body. With the big hole bored through, it is time to part it off. Here's a quick trick that I've learned over the years for squaring up my parting tool, but that is pushing up the parting tool directly to the head when everything's off and just making sure everything's true and straight before going into the parting operation. And then it's just a standard parting operation from there. Or so I thought. Remember earlier I mentioned that when parting, I ran into an issue due to a lack of rigidity in the tool post? Well, it's during this operation. Okay, experts, weigh in. Is this because it's an aluminum quick change tool post, or is there another underlying cause? And needless to say, I took it over to the vise and finished it off with the hacksaw. You know, old reliable. Though I thought the finish was lacking a little bit, so I just had to do a facing operation with a slight chamfer on the edge, just for style points. But most of that's going to be destroyed later anyways. You'll see what I mean. Then, sort of like deja vu all over again, I am boring a hole once again that I can tap to fit that MIG tip that will act as the diaphragm for the propane burner again. So yeah, it's kind of a repeat process. So let's rush right through it. Well, I didn't really do that in real life, rush through it, because otherwise I'd end up with terrible results. Out with the old adapter, in with the new. This fails. I'm back to square one again. Testing the thread to see if it works, and it sure does. After spending all the time machining this part, it was quite a relief. Next, I'll see if these these burner pieces fit together. Once again, I'm starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel of this project, and it's kind of a relief to just kind of see everything laid out on the table. In my mind's eye, I could almost see it in the furnace, melting the aluminum as it heats up. But before I can get to that point, I actually have to face my fear. My lack of skill, or experience I should say, creating a pressure-rated weld. What do I mean by that? Well, a weld that can hold up and not leak propane gas under pressure. So I want to make sure that it can hold a higher pressure than what my gas regulator will output. In this case, the initial weld is actually the easy part. I need to find a way to prove it can hold pressure. I have this spray gun or air gun or whatever you want to call it for my air compressor, but I need some way to adapt it. So I created this lovely piece. Add this small adapter to a piece of 1/8 inch pipe, and I could join it together and connect it to the air compressor. All I had to do was charge it up to 50 psi and apply some of my high-tech bubble mixture to test the joint. Yes, it's just your standard bubbles that kids play with. I applied it here and it showed where the leaks were. After a little bit of extra welding outside and a few tests, I ended up with a leak-proof joint at 50 psi. So that's more than enough, as my regulator only allows up to 30 psi. Okay, while I have everything set up outside, I'm going to do another part of the project, and I'm going to break out my new tool to cut up some black iron pipe that will form the outside shell or body of the burner. This is what that burner contraption will fit into that we just finished making, and the other end will fit into the furnace that we made in the previous video. As you can probably guess by witnessing the beautiful cut that's occurring on screen right now, I am not quite an expert yet with using the plasma cutter. There are approximately 3 to 4 errors that I'm making on this cut that are resulting in this beautiful finish. Number 1, I forgot the guide, so my distance away from the metal is probably not consistent. 2, I am probably not holding it 100% at a 90-degree angle to my cut due to it being a round circle. And 3, if I'm keeping the count straight, I did not clean off the metal as well as I should have for the grounding clamp. Maybe I didn't even clean it off. Anyways, all those would result in the less than perfect cut that you're witnessing here. While it's not perfect, I'm going to call it good enough, and I'm going to use a hammer and a cold chisel to break off that slag and clean it up just enough to work, as I'm itching to light this burner up and melt some aluminum. Even with the external pipe shell cut for this burner, I am not done, unfortunately. I needed to cut an adapter that would fit between the internals and the external pipe shell because the distance and diameter was too great. Now, I'm just doing a quick weld job. No welder would want to claim the finish on these, but hey, all it needs to do is purely functional. Nothing in appearance, and just to hold it in place and fill up that space. Now, moving on to the last touch on the external pipe shell, and that is I need to create a way to clamp the internals into the external pipe shell. And to do that, I thought the simplest solution was a set of screws. So that's what I'm going to do. A quick drill and 2 red taps later, I am ready for the final assembly. As a few of you guys might be curious, what I got to actually run the entire burner was actually this braided metal hose with a 30 psi regulator from Amazon. So it's basically a ready-to-go kit that just needs to be assembled. For all the joints though, I'm not going to just trust to a perfect threading and joint there. I'm going to throw in a little bit of that yellow Teflon tape that is rated for gas. And it looks like we're all set to take this outside and fire it up. Now, setting it all up outside was a little frustrating to me because the first place I wanted to put it was convenient, but above that area I looked up and still there were some branches of a pine tree hanging over the top of it. And being that I didn't want to create a giant bonfire so close to my house, I decided it would be wise to find another location, which was a little frustrating for me because that meant I had to carry everything farther away from the place I had all these parts stored. Once I finally found the ideal real estate to light up this foundry, I set to work. Now, the way you go about lighting it is putting a flame inside the furnace, but especially for the first time you light it up after applying the rigidizer, you really don't want excess carbon. Well, that's at least what I learned from my research. That basically means you gotta tip the torch in to light the propane. But that makes me a little nervous putting my hand that close to the flame. But I'd also purchased additional leather safety gear, which is an apron with full leather sleeves, and I was wearing my thick leather gloves, so I was as best protected as I could. I just had to brave it, reach in, and light it up. While this should have been a little more straightforward, it wasn't, because my propane torch kept on wanting it to go out every time I tipped it down far enough to ignite the foundry. Eventually, I succeeded getting it lit and it went and lit up. Now, the cool thing about this is it kind of has a slow, low rumble sound when it's burning, but it did have a tendency to sometimes sputter and kind of go out. And what I did discover was I needed to adjust that airspace, and that's why I have those 2 adjustable screws, because I'd read that that might need to happen. So adjusting it, I was able to pull it further out the internals of the burner, and then sometimes I slid it in until I found that sweet spot, where it ran at a very steady pace and really didn't sputter or go out. Besides just testing it and getting a feel for how it all works, the second goal was to condition the crucible and the oxidizer on the KO, which meant I needed to get it up to a hot enough temperature for a long enough period of time, which I barely was able to squeeze in as we had rain coming a few hours later. Fortunately, it had time to cool off before that time so I could bring it all in so it wasn't exposed to moisture. What a success and what a journey.
It seems to have cooled off enough that I can actually handle it. The outside is even cooler, the stainless steel shell. But everything has changed colors pretty drastically. The red is going from the KO. The crucible is no longer black, but a light gray tan color.
Well, I'd call that quite a success. The burner works, the Foundry survived its first firing, and everything is finally ready for the next phase. Before we can melt our first aluminum though, there are a few pieces of this puzzle that still need to be found, created, or pulled together. That is, I need to build the tools to safely lift, carry, pour, and work the molten aluminum. Sure, I could just go online and buy them, but where's really the fun in that? And besides, I don't think that a lot of the budget tools that I've seen online are really going to accomplish exactly what I think they should accomplish and the safety level I think they need. So I already have a few different designs thought out, drawn out, and ready to go for this Foundry project. So that's what we'll tackle next. After that, it'll be time to fire it up, melt the aluminum, and cast some history. If you missed part 1 where I built the Foundry furnace, I'll have the full playlist of this entire Foundry build project linked right here. And if you're enjoying following this journey from zero experience in metal casting, make sure you're subscribed and turn on the notifications so you don't miss the next step in this project. While you're here, hit the like button, and if the hype button is available, I'd really appreciate it if you give it a click. It genuinely helps this series reach more people. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. This is Brave Builds, where history, kit, and reenacting all come together to help us build a better understanding of their bravery, because their stories deserve to be remembered.